that ain't pretty. Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Today we're going to work on this Yamaha TTR 250 with a cracked subframe. The frame is broken. The previous owners had a surfboard mount on here. Imagine the extra weight of that, and these things don't really have the most stout subframe to begin with, along with living close to the beach, has led to this cracked and broken piece. Now when we picked this bike up, we didn't know that this was broken, and I even rode it up and down the street. You really can't tell. I've already stripped everything down here, but it's got this leg that goes down here, you know, prevents the back from going completely down. This side isn't broken, but it's still not the way to go, so we're going to fix this thing up. My initial plan was going to be to remove the battery, the CDI, the air box, which I've done all that already. Anytime you're going to weld on something, it's probably a good idea if you have electronics to remove them. I've also removed the zip ties and got the wiring out of the way. Now initially what I wanted to do was to make a couple of holes, maybe 2 holes here, 2 smaller ones, or one there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe here, smaller ones, and then insert a piece of pipe inside of there, because we can get this up enough that we can do that, and get the pipe in there, slide it down so it's half in here, half in there, and then plug weld it and weld around. But upon further investigation, I've realized that this thing is pretty corroded. So it must have been cracked for a long time. This was all full of gunk in here, so we cleaned that all out, and the screwdriver just went right through. So in this case, I'm going to cut this entire tube off of here, and I'm going to have to very carefully cut this gusset off, try to cut that off wide enough. Now I'm still going to sleeve that. What I have found, I've measured the inside diameter with my veneer calipers, and I found this old axle that looks like it should fit in there. So the idea is going to be to cut this thing to about, you know, a length enough where I can put that in. There's a slight bend there, so try to jam it in as far as I can, and then leave the exposed part, and we're just going to weld that axle straight to here. And I'm also going to drill probably, like I said, 4 small holes, maybe 3/16, or maybe even a little bit less than that, so we can plug weld through that. So the first thing I'm going to do, this is corroded here as well. It's getting kind of thin, so I'm going to cut that off flush. Then I'm going to try to cut that gusset off of there, and then we're going to cut this off, and then there's going to be some grinding to get this as flush as we can get it. Then we're going to measure this out. All right, there's our initial. You can see how rusty that all is in there. So now I'm going to hit the grinding wheel. I'm going to try to grind this down as much as I can here. Grind this crap off of this. Maybe grind the face of that a little bit. And then we'll measure our stub piece. We'll make sure that fits in there, because if that doesn't fit in there, then we're going to have to do a little bit of redneck garage machining. Well, I guess I had 2 axles and I wasn't really paying attention. I cut this hollow one. I really wanted to use the solid one, but seeing how thick that is compared to the relative thickness of this tubing, this is going to be just fine. It fits in there pretty easily up to there. Then it's going to have to be driven in. So before I drive that thing in there, I want to make sure I drill my plug weld holes. Like I said, I think I'll do probably 2 here, and maybe I'll just do a 3rd one on the top, because if we plug weld it, weld around that, weld it to this gusset, and then weld it to the frame, I think we're going to be just fine. Another thing I'm going to want to do is probably grind that down a little bit so that we have more of a flush fit. So I'm talking about this. And then clean the paint as much as I can in this area and off all of that and all of that. That way when it comes time to weld this, we should have no problem. But the better I get that to fit, the better everything's gonna work. I'll probably just hit this lightly on the grinder here too to make this fit in here a little bit easier so I don't have to beat all heck out of it. So for that, I'm gonna use my angle grinder and a sanding disc or flap wheel or whatever you call it. I'm gonna use that to clean all this up, and then anything I can't get with that, maybe we'll use some paint stripper. We'll see. Sanded down the area pretty decent. Might need a little bit more touch up, and just got done with the grinder. I don't know if you can hear it winding down over there. Ground that down a little bit there to fit in the tubing better and put an angle on that. So hopefully we can find a happy spot for that. Let me get you in the phone holder. There we go. And let's see how that goes in there. Needs a little bit of persuasion, it appears. Hang on, don't go nowhere. There you are. Might need a little more persuasion, or maybe a little more grinding. But let me see if I can find a happy place for this pipe. It looks pretty good right there. We're getting close. Go. Let's remove that, and I'll bring it in there. That out of the way, and something like that. Looks like we might need to do a little bit more cleanup on the end of that pipe there. Try to get that a little bit closer, but we're right on that gusset. We should be able to touch that. We should be able to weld around there. Once I drill my holes, we'll be able to plug weld. I'm going to put a piece of tape on there so we can see how far in this thing inserts, so we don't drill plug weld holes too far back. So we're almost to the point where we can weld this thing, and I have a welder, but I'm probably going to take it to a friend of mine who has a better welder, and he is a better welder operator. All right, I think we're about 95% prepped up now, so I just have to wait for my friend to be available. He said he should be available later this afternoon, so a couple hours, and hopefully that's not too big of a gap. I don't think it is, but we should weld around there, that, and that, and I think this thing is going to be solid, but we will see. All right, my Puerto Rican buddy here. Yeah, I didn't have to say that. He's got his TIG welder.
It's for context.
It's a military thing.
All right, we are tacked.
He's a ex-Navy welder. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
Take it with a grain of salt.
so we're gonna tack it all on this frame head here, just like I talked about. Let's see, he's got a tack on there.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's like as soon as it catches the frame, it wants to go away. There you go. I gotta keep doing.
That frame is too thin, huh?
Yeah. I mean, compared to the sleeve, you know,
Yeah.
it's
So it just gets hot much faster and
exactly
starts
yeah.
to melt. And here's our final product. The next day, I brought her home. The metal for this little gussety piece here was pretty thin, so as my buddy was welding it, it started to blow through there. But I'm not too concerned about that. He also couldn't quite get to the back side of this with the TIG welder. I mean, to do that, we would have had to completely remove that gusset. Maybe looking back, that would have been the way to go. And then also couldn't go all the way around the back of this. And this plug weld, this was my error. I left the threads on the end of that axle, and they were so full of junk that it was contaminating the weld, so the TIG welder just wouldn't do it. So possibly I might fire up my stick welder and see if it'll just burn through that crap, because an arc welder is definitely less prone to worrying about like corrosion and contamination. But all said and done, I think we have a solid product here, so solid that I am going to get you in the stand here, and I'll put all of me on the back of it for a test. So if it breaks on camera, then we know. Here we go. I don't know how that turned out. It's on my own cameraman, but hopefully you saw some idiot climb up on top of there. So there you have it. A way to repair a subframe. It's not the only way, maybe not the best way, but that's the way we did it, and I am confident that thing is going to hold. Who knows how long the previous owner was riding it with that crack on there anyway, so this bike is not going to see any motocross doubles, anything like that. Light trail use. If you're liking my content, give me a thumbs up. Please leave some comments down below so that I know that you're watching, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider doing so. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.